loved watching this. The feeling that it brought me after watching this movie was like, I just want to be in a musical right now. I just want to
Right.
be in that world.
I was absolutely dancing around my apartment.
Right?
I was absolutely just moving around.
Hello, everyone. Welcome to the First Ones to Die podcast. My name is Jonathan, and I am here with Alex. Jerome is out this week, but never fear, he'll be back next week. We're gonna hold down the fort this week. Alex, how you doing?
I am doing good. I went to Topgolf this week, which was really cool.
Oh,
Yeah, I'm sore though.
oh,
I did not realize how much movement golf takes. I don't know. That's not even the best way to express that. But like golf is really strenuous activity. Like there are
yeah,
certain parts of my back that are still killing me because of the way you have to like twist.
yeah.
It
It's
was
all in the back.
and like you have to have like loose hips to move, and my hips are very stiff apparently. Yeah, by the end it was super fun and everything, but by the end, like me and my sister and my sister-in-law were like hunched over, we're like dying, we're like our backs. Like I really felt my age at that moment. It was for my birthday, so it was like I felt my age at the time. It's like a
Nice.
humbling experience. But it was still a lot of fun. It was absolutely a lot of fun. But
You went to the
but
one in Renton?
mhm, which
Nice.
was
Well, I
really
guess that's the only
pretty.
one in Washington.
Is it?
Maybe, I don't know. But I know it. They put it up after I moved to California, so I've never been to it. But when I
It's
come back, we'll
nice.
go.
We should. It's actually a lot of fun. Um, you do have to hit like pretty hard because it's like I was thinking I'm like, oh, it's gonna be a bit like mini golf or something. You kind of just have to hit. No, you like full on body swing. Like you have to hit the ball, and multiple times I missed. My biggest fear was like letting the golf club go,
Uh,
which is probably why my like wrist hurts a little bit. I was gripping that thing because I was like,
uh,
I just don't want to let it go behind me. I don't want to let it go in front of me. I just am doing my best not to be somebody that I saw on TikTok. Not to
that
be one
fell
of
in
those.
the that.
Luckily, we were on the first floor, so no net
Okay.
falling. But I also just didn't want to be one of those people where you just see the golf club swinging every other way, or like just see something happening and them being like, "Oh God." Like I was humbled, but I wasn't trying to be embarrassed.
Oh, okay, okay. How did you do?
Uh, Surprisingly well nearing the end. Not so great at the beginning. You had to
Okay.
get a little comfortable, but I actually did pretty well. I hit a couple of. So they have like these giant holes,
Mm-hmm.
and the more center you get to, the more points you got. There's one I hit the flagpole right in the middle of it, so I was very proud. Yeah,
Hey.
I was very proud of that. But like I said, I did better than I thought I would, but still not very good. So like a little bit in between. But
Nice.
how was your week, man?
Good, good. Side note on the Top Golf thing. I went, I think it was in like 2016 when me and my family went to Vegas. Uh, and for whatever reason, it wasn't working. Like maybe it was when Top Golf was, just getting its footing. So like they had bugs and issues, but I was disappointed. And we like left after we only did like three swings
Oh
because
no.
our like area or screen or whatever wasn't working. But I'd love to go back and get the proper experience.
It is, like I said, a lot of fun, humbling experience, especially with somebody with not the best of back. And it was just really cool to you got like a really cool like sense of accomplishment when you actually saw how far you could hit a ball. And the one we went to was working properly, so it showed you like, oh, you hit like 94 meters or something like that. It was really cool to see how far you could actually hit.
Mm-hmm.
And I think during the end, although we were getting tired, we were more determined to be like, all right, we don't necessarily want to go into one of the holes, but we just want to see how far we can hit. And so that was really cool to see the distance. And it's all, I
Nice.
don't know how they, well, I guess there's little trackings in the balls because there's like
Yeah.
so many everywhere. There were
Uh-huh.
times they were like bouncing off of each other. So I was like, I don't know how they're keeping track of this, but this is really cool. I don't know
Right.
this. I don't know what magic they're doing, but like it's awesome.
Nice. But yeah, my week was good. It was actually my last day for Stranger Things. I got a little encore bonus moment in there, and today the day we're recording it is the last day of the LA show. So later we'll be doing some like cast post get together type things, and yeah, overall, anyone out there who's watching Love is Blind, the live reunion will have come out by the time we release this episode. So I'm sure it was messy. I hope it was not disappointing, but I'm sure it was very messy.
There, because you're a little bit of an expert in reality shows. What was? Wasn't there a meetup for some reality show where somebody threw a chair? I can't.
I
I remember this
this sounds
so
like it might be a
clearly.
housewives thing, maybe.
You know
Was
what?
it a?
I feel like oddly enough, it had to do with Flavor Flav.
Oh, okay.
That dating show. I feel like somebody threw a chair at the that reunion ending. I know a chair was thrown, and I remember being like, "Yes, I am into this
Probably,
mess." Yeah,
probably some MTV VH1
really
show.
proper trash TV. That was
Mm-hmm.
like proper trash TV. Love is Blind, I feel like has still like its moments where it's like not like on that logo. It's not trash TV. It's reality TV.
Yeah, there's a good balance between trash and like class.
Yeah, all the VH1 dating shows absolutely trash.
Hmm.
Absolutely, yeah.
No one's finding actual love out of
Mm-mm.
those.
Somebody's getting chairs or drinks thrown at them. I
Mhm.
am always partial to seeing somebody get a drink thrown in their face. I don't know why. I think it's hilarious and I love it.
It's always a good moment because you know they're not like getting hurt, and but it's just getting a drink thrown in your face is just such a shameful thing to happen.
It really is, and you just stand there and just you have to take it because like you just got a drink tossed at you. You could do. I'm sure you could react in a certain way or like throw the drink back, but it's still like you were the first one hit.
Right.
But anyway,
um. Well,
you know
on
what's
that
not
note,
shameful?
you know it's not trashy. Singing in the Rain. Yes, we are talking about the 1952 musical starring Gene Kelly, Donald O'Connor, and Debbie Reynolds about a silent film star who falls for a chorus girl just as he and his delusionally jealous screen partner are trying to make the difficult transition to talking pictures in 1920s Hollywood. Now you know, I don't know how we decided this came about. I think we just decided. Was this your suggestion, Alex?
Yes, yes.
Yes.
Because
And
I wanted to do more musicals, I wanted to review a
yes.
musical, and I'm always partial to Singing in the Rain because a lot of older films quite have a lot of racism, misogynistic, or homophobic or something like that. I rarely find that in Singing in the Rain, which is very nice. It's a nice film to just able to watch and not being like, oh, gotta remember it was a period of time that was different and that crap was
Uh-huh.
acceptable. No, this doesn't really have that, except for like one scene that I didn't remember and then I kind of found and I was like, oh, that wasn't great.
Yeah, Singing in the Rain is just a joy. This Singing in the Rain is one of my favorite musicals. Um, I remember in fifth grade, we watched the movie and that was kind of in preparation for us to watch the musical live on stage. And so we went and saw the musical live, and that was amazing as well. I think it was at the Fifth Avenue. And and then in college, I had a film class, and this was one of the movies on the list to watch. So getting to watch that again was a joy as well. And so I it's been a minute since I've seen it. I haven't seen it in about like 10 years since my freshman year. Oh, that's weird to think about. College was
That's
10 years. Okay.
now you know how I'm
Okay.
feeling. I would
um
love to see it live. I've never seen Singing in the Rain live. I think that would be so much fun.
yes, they should bring it. I don't know if it's playing anywhere that they're planning on touring, but hey, we should go.
Take a little
If
road trip. Let's go find Singing in the Rain.
yes.
I'd be down for that.
Yes.
Um, but some of the actors in Singing in the Rain was Gene Kelly. He played Don Lockwood. Donald O'Connor, Cosmo Brown. Debbie Reynolds, Kathy Selden. Jean Hagen was Lena Lamont. Millard Millard Mitchell, R.F. Simpson, and then a couple other people are listed, but they're more like the background actors.
Yeah, including Rita Moreno, which I
Oh,
didn't
I didn't
realize
know.
that she was in this movie. Like, and I didn't even. I think she had a very small part because I don't remember her even watching it now. Um,
I remember her the only time I saw her, or at least I think I saw her, was when Lamont found out that Kathy was like doing her scenes or the voiceover for it, and she was like right next to her, being like, "Oh yeah, I told her everything."
oh, that's right.
That was it. That's
That
the
was
only
her.
time. That was her. That was it. Because they called her
Wow.
Zelda, and I only. That's why I'm like, oh yeah, that was Zelda. They had mentioned Zelda multiple times throughout the movie, because originally they were gonna get Kathy to play Zelda's younger sister.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but I don't think she ever popped up until that moment. She
Wow.
probably played in the actual like their movie. She probably played a character in that film. She was probably
Mm-hmm.
there, but I don't. Yeah, I don't remember that too much either.
And fun fact, Rita Moreno is the last surviving cast member from this film.
How is that a fun fact?
I mean, sorry, interesting fact. Interesting.
Interesting fact: all her friends are dead. Oh god. What did you think of the film? Because now it's in Technicolor.
Yes. And I feel like so I'm assuming you watch this on HBO Max as well.
Mm-hmm.
And HBO Max, I feel like they, upgraded. They did some editing with the color as well because it looked so good. Like it looked like something that you could have made nowadays, um, say for a few adjustments, something that looks like it could have been, shot nowadays. That just takes place in like the 1920s.
Yeah, I could see that because and they weren't well, except for like there was one scene I was really tripping on. Um, was right before they were gonna talk to Kathy or kind of request for her to be in the movie. They have this whole dance sequence with all these people, and they have like these toy soldiers kind of going on, and this guy with like his horn. I was like, there's a very glittery background, and things just look really trippy to me. And I was like, I
Yes.
think this would have looked more normal in black and white because they needed to add those vibrant colors to make it more pop in black and white.
Mm-hmm.
But like with Technicolor or with normal color, it was very like, oh, you look like you wrapped the studio in like glittery wrapping paper or something. I don't know what's going on. I don't like it. I don't know what's going on. But like, I think that's the only part where I was like, that color doesn't really work with the movie. Everything else was like fine and beautiful, and like their outfits just were so gorgeous in the colors when they were revealed.
Mm-hmm.
Costume
And
design for this movie was insane.
the costumes, the that you mentioned the dance sequence towards the end where Don is showing his vision for what could happen in the movie. Oh my gosh, I do not remember. I was enthralled. I do not remember it being so like visually stimulating, so like just magical. And you could tell that all of that was like shot within this. You could tell that the whole movie was really shot on a soundstage, like in the studio. Um, but that part, especially when you have him and the woman dancer who's dancing, and you have the flowy part of the dress in the background, and it's like a pink, like sunset
Yeah.
sky or whatever. Oh my gosh, that was so beautiful. And yeah, I just loved every moment of that dance sequence part.
I will say with the dance sequences, I did enjoy them, but I forgot how long they ran. You know what I mean? Like it's not like it took away or I was like, "Oh, I can't believe it's running this." I just forgot how long the non-singing just the dancing part was. And I was like,
Hmm.
"Oh, they're still going." Like with the Good Morning. Is it Good Morning? Yeah,
Yes, good
Good
morning.
Morning.
Good morning.
They spent like 2 minutes just tap dancing. Just straight up tap dancing between verses. And I was like, "Oh, okay." I mean, but they're showing off like this amazing skill, so it's not like I was like bummed or anything. Their
Hmm.
talent, their dancing talent, I have no coordination whatsoever. And this was apparently the first time Debbie Reynolds had ever danced in a film.
Really?
Yeah, this was her first time ever dancing in a film. She had never danced before, and I was like, that's insane. I walked
Yes.
into a door at work and I got cut a little bit. But like these are all like just able to do such amazing things. It's so cool to see that the
It was
talent that was shown
amazing.
in this film.
Yes, and it just brings me back to like it the thought that when you watch this, you're like, wow, were people more talented back then than they are now? And that's definitely like not the case. Giving credit to both back then and today. But back then, you couldn't really rely on camera angles, special effects. Um, I feel like in today's Hollywood, sometimes it is more of like, okay, who fits the look of this character, rather than do they have all of the right skill sets. But back then, even though it definitely was some of that, a lot of it was like, you got to be a triple threat, otherwise you ain't gonna make it in Hollywood. And this kind of showcases a part of that.
I think that's what it was. I think in like just this film alone, we got to see somebody being able to sing, somebody being able to dance, them acting. There were funny moments. There were stunt performances like with Donald O'Connor as Cosmo going through the wall, him having to be hospitalized because they had to retake it. Like all this stuff is going on in one film. When you have like films today, it's not that actors are less talented. It's just that they're like you're only dramatic. That's it.
Mm-hmm.
You can't have the one liners. You can't be funny. There's no singing. There's no dancing. So you get stuck in like one role. And then the next one, it's like, oh, it's comedy. You can't have the serious moments because you're the comedy relief and stuff like that. So I feel like that's why it almost feels like actors aren't as talented almost as the one because they're not able to showcase as much as their talent in one film as like I feel like actors were back in the day because you really did have to be a triple threat, especially
Right.
around the 1950s where dancing and singing was such a big thing.
Mm-hmm.
Speaking of Donald O'Connor, I feel like he carried a lot of this film as Cosmo.
Oh my
I
gosh.
forgot how funny he was. He was I throughout the whole film I was like in love with him. He's so
Funny,
fantastic.
charismatic, uh an excellent dancer, acrobat. He was doing like acrobatic stuff at points. He played multiple instruments. Like you can't get more talented than that.
Yeah.
um Funny, like you mentioned, the like make them laugh, obviously the iconic number. um just the fact that it felt like it was like a one shot take. I'm sure it was like split up at points, but the endurance that he had during that whole thing, and the thing that I remember most of that number is him doing the backflip on the wall. I remember that's one of the memorable things from the musical as well. They kept that in the stage version of the musical, the backflip on the wall too. Um,
Yeah, I think
but
it's when
yeah,
he went through the wall that he had to be hospitalized because they didn't do it right.
wow, I didn't
And
know that.
they had to redo it. Yeah. Well, I remembered him very rarely, but everybody was always talking about Gene Kelly and Debbie Reynolds, which absolutely fair enough. They're both amazingly talented actors, but like when I saw Donald O'Connor as Cosmo, I was like, Cosmo's just funny too, because he plays the best friend character so well as well. Because like he was never like you never felt like again like the comedy relief best friend character in a lot of these shows and movies today. You always feel like they're very easily brushed off, like,
Hmm.
oh, they're just there to be the confidant. Oh, they're just there to kind of take the hits and keep rolling. But like Cosmo in this movie was like listened to. He was respected. You know, he was never talked down to or belittled. And when they were having these big moment ideas, they're like, well, you're involved. Clearly, you're involved. You're gonna be involved. Like when they were switching to sound, and he's like, "Well, I'm out of a job." They're like, "No, we want you head of the music department." He's like, "Okay, great, I'm coming back." Then he's like, "At a raise, of course."
Right.
And I was like, "That's a smooth way to do it." You didn't go into like, "Oh man, I'm out of a job," or like doing it. It was a very smooth transition where he kept light, and it was like, "Oh, you felt like you were always involved. Nobody was ever pushing you aside." They were like, "No, you're gonna be here, man. Relax."
Right.
So I
Yeah.
really loved his character, and then going on to Gene Kelly's character, Don, I really like how he respected both the characters in the movie. He was never misogynistic towards Debbie Reynolds' character Kathy, and he was never belittling of his best friend, being like, "Well, I'm the great actor." He's like, "Eh," he's like, "I'm okay." Even
Hmm.
he was quite humble of himself.
Right.
Eventually,
Right. There were moments where he was, especially at the beginning, when he accidentally falls into Kathy's car,
oh yeah, I
and
love
it's like she has a right to be scared. This dude just like hopped into her car, and he's like he getting upset at her for being upset.
He's like, "Calm down, calm down." She's like, "No, I've seen you places." And I was like, I love that scene made me laugh from the start of it, because when they walk out of the theater and the fans surround him, one, he tells Cosmo, "Call me a cab," and he's like, "All right, you're a cab." Like no way does he try to help his friend who's literally getting torn apart. And then he has these fans that are literally tearing off his clothes, and I'm like, oh my god. I forgot this. Like, I forgot a lot of good scenes. I remember the musical parts, but I forgot a lot of just the funny scenes that were happening here. And then when he falls into Kathy's car, and Kathy's like, "I've seen you at the post office with the big numbers," and he's like, "No, I'm not." And then she calls the officer, and he's like, "Hey, you're Don Lockwood," and she's like, "Oh, that explains why I've seen him." But yeah, that had to be one of my most favorite scenes, just at that beginning, because you have Cosmo being stupid and funny and being like, "Yeah, all right, go let the fans tear you apart. You'll figure it out. I don't need to get my hands
Right.
dirty." He's like,
Right.
"Not my monkey, not my circus."
And just props to Gene Kelly. Like he, if you know, everyone knows who Gene Kelly is, but the amount of talent that he has is immeasurable. Um, and this is basically his film because he directed it. He helped like create the concept. I think he helped. Maybe he didn't help write it, but um, this film is his child, and yeah, just the amount of talent that he showcases in it is immeasurable. The fact that he was either 40 or almost 40 when he filmed this, um, and I'm not near 40, and my knees
Oh
could
man, I
not be
played
doing the
Top
things.
Golf and I'm like still in pain 2 days later. That's just hitting a ball for me. I can't imagine doing everything. I've told this story before. Uh, I'm a very much I'm a climber, and I'm fine climbing up things. Now in my older years, I'm scared of jumping off things. However, and I had climbed onto my sister's dryer to help her fix something, and I just jumped up and I was fine. But the coming down part was terrifying. So I turned into like a stiff board and just slowly slid off the dryer. It was the most embarrassing thing I have done in a while. It was ridiculous about how scared. And this man is just leaping off of things constantly.
Mm-hmm.
And he has enough faith in his partners as well as himself to be able to do this skill, and it's pretty amazing the confidence he does have. I do know for Singing in the Rain, I did read that they had actually created the songs beforehand,
Mm-hmm.
and so they fit the movie for the songs instead.
Which
So
is
I don't know. Did
which
he write any songs?
I'm not sure, but it is a testament to the songs because each song in the movie has gone on to be legendary, iconic. Like everybody knows these songs. Even if you've never seen Singing in the Rain, like the whole movie, you know the songs that are in this movie. You know Good Morning, you know Make 'Em Laugh, you know Singing in the Rain. Um, so it was a good move to make the songs before the movie and just tie it together.
I feel like MGM really had like a strong hold on cinema during that time frame because they were producing so many musicals. I think they were one of the first few studios to do sound as well.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know who started with color in movies. I don't know that, but every time I see a MGM thing or something like that, I'm like, and it's from a certain time period, I'm like, yeah, this is gonna be a good movie. Again, whether it's
Mm-hmm.
going to be slightly offensive is a whole different story, but usually the plots are pretty good and solid. The
Right.
scene I was talking about that was slightly racist, and I don't know if you caught this because I barely caught it.
I, I think I know what you're talking about, but
When they were
yeah,
walking through the studio, where they were walking past all the sets, or what part are you to? Mine
wait,
was
continue. Go ahead.
sorry. Mine was when they first before it was right before Make 'Em Laugh, and they're walking past all the different sets because back then you didn't have to be quiet because everything was a silent film. So
Right.
the first set they walk past is like a tribe dancing around a giant
Yes.
cauldron.
Yes.
And then I was
Yes.
like, okay, all right, I'm not liking it, but like, all right. And then I don't know if you noticed the guy sitting down was a white guy, just painted with really dark skin.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I was like, I'm not liking this, but like he did it. It was racist, but I'm like he didn't say anything racist. I'm like I have like this weird like spectrum where I'm like, okay, how racist is it though?
Next game show. How racist is it?
How racist is it? Can I continue the film? Or is this something where I'm going to be like, oh, no, 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 no. It was enough for me to continue the film, so.
Exactly. Yeah, I loved watching this. The feeling that it brought me after watching this movie was like I just want to be in a musical right now. I just want to
Right.
be in that world.
I was absolutely dancing around my apartment.
Right?
I was absolutely just moving around.
And
It's
now,
fun.
yeah, now I want to watch some of the other like American in Paris.
Oh, I watched that. Yeah, I went on a
Did you?
little, because I was trying to find more. I was like, I like this. I'm going to keep this vibe going. I watched American in
Mm-hmm.
Paris. Very good film. Great musical numbers again. There is, however, the scene nearing the end with Gene Kelly where I'm just going to come out and say it. It's going to not sound great, but this is what he reminded me of in the outfit he was wearing. He looked like sperm. And let me explain. Let me explain.
I was
Let me
not
explain.
expecting that. Oh
I
my
know,
God.
but let me explain. He's wearing this like white hat, and I think it's supposed to be like a beret. It's a white beret, and he's wearing a white shirt, a long sleeved white shirt, and then he's just wearing long white pants with white shoes. And with the hat, it flattens his head and it makes it very round. I was like, if he just stood there and wiggled, He
Oh
would look.
my
He would
god.
look like a cartoon version of what people say a sperm looks like. I know it doesn't sound great, but like I saw that and that's all I thought about while watching him do that scene. Which I was like, that
Great.
feels like
Now when I
relating.
watch it,
He looks like it. Watch it and tell me he does not look like it.
okay.
There's like no. It's not that he looks like a marshmallow. No, that's it. That's it. I like Gene Kelly. I respect him. I think he does amazing work. He's extremely talented. Can do more than I could ever do. Um, but he does look like a sperm in American in Paris at the end.
Wow.
Yeah. But anyway, I think you should. I was trying to find some other musicals. There's not too many on
HBO Max.
HBO Max. I do want to watch. I haven't
If
seen
you go to
Meet
the,
Me in St. Louis.
me neither. I don't think. If you go to, there's like the TCM channel, like Turner Classic Movies. I know they have, they might have an app or something, where you can watch a lot of the old films. When they were referencing in the movie The Jazz Singer, I'm like, hey, I know a little bit about the history because when I worked for Warner Brothers, that was one of the things that we had to mention on tour, that The Jazz Singer, it was the first ever talkie film. And it was cool to kind of see them be like, okay, Warner Brothers did this, and now we got to get on the talkie train. So how are we gonna make this talkie film?
I like that they didn't belittle the film. They never like, oh, this piece of
Yeah.
crap. They were like, well, they did it, and we're like, well, yeah, it's a good film. They're like, they want more films like that because it's great. Well, do they want more films like that, or do they want talkie films? No, they want more films like The Jazz Band. And I was like, oh, so they're like kind of in a weird way respecting their competitors, being like, we don't like that you did this, but like, we're gonna acknowledge that it was the first talkie film and it was good.
Mm-hmm.
When the guy at the beginning did that like small screening of his private like own talkie film, they zoomed in so close to that man's face. I like. And like with the color, his teeth, it bothered me. It bothered me for like a solid couple minutes. His teeth were so yellow. You forget because like people smoked and drank so much back then, constantly, how yellow people's teeth were. Because black and white film made sure you didn't notice that. But nope, everybody's teeth were very yellow back then.
Yeah.
It was
Yeah.
bothersome to me. I like it. I feel mean, but like, I know, like, if you're gonna be that close to a person's face, like,
Exactly.
I'm gonna pick part stuff. But I also really liked the introduction of the talk about how it was about the talkie films. When did Jazzman come out? When did the
The Jazz Singer came out in 19, oh jeez, let me see if I'm up on my history. 1920. Let's see if I'm right. It's been over a year since I've done a since I've done
Come
a tour.
on.
1928. Sorry, 1928. 1928. That's my final answer.
I do not have it. I thought I did. Hold on.
Oh, okay. Jazz Singer, 1927. Okay, I was a year off.
It looks like they redid it in 1980.
Yeah, and 1952. They made a few remakes.
There was, after 1927, and there was a 1952 theatrical adaptation, a 1959 television adaptation, and then 1980. Oh, it's produced by Paramount, so it might be on Paramount, at least the 1980 version. 1927. I wonder where that is.
Well, it might be on, the original might be on HBO Max, because Warner Brothers, HBO.
Who knows what's on HBO Max now?
Apparently, in the future, they're removing the HBO part of HBO Max, so it's just going to be called Max, because of like Warner Brothers Discovery and like Discovery Channel is getting moved to it. So yeah, the eye roll.
It's just one of those like, I don't know what they want to do with stuff, but they need to stop. People just need to stop once in a while. which is very tiring. I just want to
Yes.
watch Singing in the Rain. I actually might rewatch it in black and white because although the colors were really pretty and vibrant, I do enjoy watching black and white films. Um,
Mm.
and I blame it one on my mom and then on TV Land because I used to watch so many movies on TV Land. Do
I
you
remember
remember that?
TV Land.
Oh my god, I wonder if it's still a station or it's still.
Maybe, I don't know.
Although the
Which
color helped me realize how blue Donald O'Connor's eyes are.
Yeah, they were very
Very
blue.
blue. I thought Gene Kelly's eyes were supposed to be blue, but Donald O'Connor's eyes were like blue.
Yeah.
So I was amazed by that. They didn't even look real at times. I'm not gonna lie. It's like those like
TV Land's still kicking, and now they have two channels: TV Land Drama and TV Land Sitcoms. Were launched on Pluto TV. Oh, so they're both on Pluto. Pluto. What's
ha.
Pluto?
You sound like me.
They were both launched on Pluto TV. Why do I keep saying Pluto? Pluto. Oh my gosh.
Because you don't have Jerome yelling at you to correct your words. That's actually where I watch Some Like It Hot. I love that film too.
Oh, okay.
I think a lot of films, the old films, don't get so much credit nowadays, and they really should. They're good films. There's a reason they're classics.
Yeah, I wanna go into some of the Alfred Hitchcock films, other than like Psycho, The Birds. I've watched what was the Alfred Hitchcock movie?
Vertigo. Vertigo's a good one.
Maybe it was, or it was. This is gonna bug me now, so I'm gonna have to look it up.
Number 13, Pleasure Garden, The Lodger, Downhill, Farmer's Wife, Blackmail, 39 Steps.
Wow, he did a lot.
Dial
He
M
did a
for
Mr. and
Murder.
Mrs. Smith.
Yeah, that was the original.
Wow,
He
I did not
directed.
know
He
that.
did not produce or write it. He just directed.
Oh. Maybe it was North by Northwest.
What
I know
is
that's a
are you thinking of?
huh,
What are you thinking of?
or maybe it was Shadow of a Doubt. It was a movie I watched. It was another one of the. It was a movie I think I watched in college, and that I was like, oh, this is a great Alfred Hitchcock film. But I don't remember what it was, or maybe it was Notorious. It could have been all these.
What it was. It was great. I don't remember anything about the plot name, or I just know it was Alfred Hitchcock. I'll watch anything besides The Birds. I'm not cool with that.
Oh, you're not a fan of
No.
The Birds?
I am not a fan of The Birds. No. You can blame my mother for that. Don't let children under 1 watch horror films. It messes with them.
Wow.
I'm still scared of seagulls at times. I'm fine if there's one seagull, but if I see a group of them, I'm hiding behind somebody. I'm going to admit that right now. Group of seagulls is not okay. I don't know why they call group of crows a murder. It should be seagulls. What were we talking about? Yes, older films.
Yes.
They should get a little more TV time, I feel like.
I wouldn't mind, us having, like we did with our cartoon retrospective. I wouldn't mind us having just like doing a series where we just watch old films, classic movies.
I'd always be down for that. Because another thing with the old films is that they were the original ideas. Those were the first ones. They were the ones that first brought books to the movie screen and things like that. And because a lot of the writers were able to have a little more input than they do nowadays. Nowadays, things are so controlled by the studios. Mm-hmm. And I get it. They want to make something that's going to, make money. I think it's very rare nowadays to see passion projects.
Yeah.
And when you do, you just know when certain passion projects have been like too many fingers have been dipped in. Like with Singing in the Rain with Gene Kelly, you could really see he put everything into it. the fact that he wanted songs and then the story. He was more focused on the songs, the choreography, everything like that. And I watched a little interview with Donald O'Connor where he was talking about working with Gene Kelly, and he was talking about how great it was and everything, and how originally he was worried about dancing alongside Gene Kelly. And Gene Kelly was like, "Oh, we both grew up on stage. We have untraditional, like, dance training because they didn't go through the proper channels. They were kid actors, and they grew up in it, and were kind of just taught on set." And Donald O'Connor said something about how most dancers will turn to the right. You always go to the right when you turn or dance or things like that. He's like, but I go to my left. And he was like, I'm very worried about that because I have to have a couple scenes where he's like, me and Gene Kelly are like right on top of each other. And if we're not coordinated, somebody's going to get hurt or the scene's going to go back. So he's like, on the first day of shooting, I think, he was going to ask Gene Kelly, hey, which way do you turn? And he's like, at the same time, Gene Kelly was asking me the same question, which way do you turn? And he's like, left. And Gene Kelly's like, perfect, I go left too. And he's like, that's why the dance sequences or routines and choreography work so well for us, because we were able to be in sync because we turned the same way. We were able to follow each other's steps and everything was so coordinated. And that way, that's another thing where you can see probably Gene Kelly either saw that or like noticed that, or he just watched, Donald O'Connor's work and was like, yeah, that guy would be probably great for this. And just like the way you said earlier, when you said earlier how like people are like, oh, this fits the role in more of a look than actual like skill.
Mm-hmm.
And I feel like back then they really did go for skill a lot more.
Exactly. It's just I love, yeah, like interviews like that, like hearing about the history of how something came about that was produced that long ago, because back then there were so many politics in making stars, becoming a star. um, Back then you actually had contracts where be you would like be not tied down, but you would be contracted to a studio. Um, Whereas nowadays it's like you can work with any studio you want, and it's more like on a project by project basis. But back then it was like, okay, you're gonna be with us you're gonna be sign a 5-year contract, and you're gonna make this many movies in those 5 years. So back then it was kind of like the studio produced the star rather than just the star becoming like a star based on how much fanfare they have.
Which exactly is what they had for the main or for Don Lockwood and Lamont. It was Lamont and Lockwood. The studio had Lamont, yeah, those two, and then I think there's another portion nearing the end, right before they embarrass the female lead Lamont when they open up. I like how all of them have the same thought where they're like, yeah, let's just open up the drapes. She mentions about how Kathy has signed a contract for 5 years, and she's like, it doesn't matter if you want to do it or not. You signed that contract. They tell you to do something, you do it. That's it. And so, yeah, it was more that you got that contract, or like you had to produce this many films with us before you're able to work with any other studio.
Exactly. And so that's like the politics of it all. I don't know if it's probably better that it's not that way. That way, like the actor has more free will. They can do whatever they want. But also, I feel like that's kind of also why it's harder for actors nowadays to sustain, popularity, because you could have one hit movie and then no one ever hears from you ever again after that. Whereas back then, the studio like put so much money into you that they needed you to be a star.
Yeah, they're like, we have you for 5 years. We're using you for 5 years.
Exactly.
I can see that. Yeah. I think it's really not weird, but a little strange to be contracted with one studio for so many years. I feel like maybe if like, oh, I'm contracted for like maybe 5 films or something like that, or like a total amount of projects. But for like years, something about it feels very like locked in. Like I feel like certain projects, well, at least back then, because films were like what, an hour, 45 minutes, 90 minutes at most. Nowadays they're
Yeah.
like 4 hours. They take like almost 2 years to film at times. You could probably do 30 projects in like less than 5 years with
Back then,
silent film.
yeah.
Yeah. That would, I think that's why I feel like it's less restrictive. But like nowadays, if somebody does that, I was like, yeah, if you do a 5 year contract with one studio, what you get 2 projects,
2 movies, yeah.
you get 2 movies, you're free, you're good. But like 5 years, somebody could really squeeze a lot out of you.
Yeah.
I do like how they bring that up in the actual film too. Like they're all contracted, because like when I mentioned how Cosmo was like, great, I'm out of a job and everything, and they're like, no, you're staying. It means that he wasn't contracted.
Yeah.
Does that?
I guess not.
So that means he was,
Because he was just a small part of it. Not small, but he wasn't as big as the main.
You
stars.
could unfortunately get another piano player.
Right.
But yeah, and then they're like, oh, we want you to be the head of the music department. He was like, all right, I'll do it. I'll come back with a raise. I also just like how he slipped that in there. He was like, I'll come back with a raise. Yeah, that's great. I was like, all right.
That's how you do it.
Get that money. But that ending scene was one of my favorite. Because
so
again,
great.
I tell you, Cosmo, like, he really stole the show for me this time around.
Mm-hmm.
And it may be because I'm going to be honest, actually, I mentioned it on the couple TikToks I did while watching the film. I was a little under the influence. Which was, I think, why that, like, scene that with the toy soldiers and the guy with the horn and the glittery background kind of tripped me out. I was like, I don't remember this and I don't like it. Got me so much, but he was just so funny throughout the whole film. Every time he was on screen, I was just having the best time. And I think he's so underrated. And I do want to watch more films with him. I've seen quite a few films with Gene Kelly. I haven't seen too many with Debbie Reynolds. I've seen a few, but
Halloween Town.
Absolutely. One of her top roles.
Exactly.
And Halloween Town too.
Yes.
Oh my god. I remember watching Halloween Town for the first time. I feel old. We're reviewing movies that are far much older than us.
Far before our time.
Yeah, and then we'll say a movie that's like more our time range, and then I'm like, oh, that makes me feel old. That's the part that makes me feel old. Halloween Town though was great. If you guys haven't seen Halloween Town, it is on Disney Channel Plus or Disney Plus. It is great. It stars the lovely Debbie Reynolds, and I think she does have a music sequence in there. She has a song in there. Because you can't... Yeah, because her voice is beautiful.
Mm-hmm.
I think the thing I like about Debbie Reynolds' singing voice is that it's not high. It's not a high-pitched voice.
Yeah, it's quite low.
It is quite low, and I like that because I have a deeper voice. And it's nice to hear somebody, especially that time frame, too. Because there's, like, a weird, I guess, kind of thought where you're, like, the women were, like, higher voice and, like, more delicate sounding, like, kind of like that. But, like, when you watch actresses like Debbie Reynolds, you're like, oh, no. They had a very, like, what sounds like an average singing voice or, like, average tone. It's absolutely not average because she still hit notes and everything and sang more beautifully than I could ever imagine. I mean, if you ever, I mean, Cheddar puts his little airplane ears on ever when I sing, so I know where my skill levels are. I have no false thoughts about that. But, like, hearing somebody who's at least around my tone is great to hear. And I feel like nowadays, the singers sing, again, very well, but they're just so high up. So even when I'm singing in the car, I can't match that. It hurts. But I do want to watch more films with Debbie Reynolds and definitely Donald O'Connor. I think his dancing was amazing and his singing was really good. And I would love to see. I feel like he was really underrated in this film. I would love to see more of him. And Gene Kelly, like I said, go watch American in Paris and tell me he doesn't look like a sperm. I'm gonna try watching I'm gonna skip over that part. I'm gonna try watching Meet Me in St. Louis, and I believe that has Audrey Hepburn. No.
Katharine Hepburn,
Maybe Katharine Hepburn.
Let's see.
Were they related? Yeah, right.
They were not.
No.
They had no relation. I literally found this out like a year ago.
Oh.
Audrey Hepburn and Katharine Hepburn were not. I thought they were mother and daughter for the longest time, but they had no relation.
That's crazy.
Mm-hmm. It's with Judy Garland.
Oh.
Meet Me in St. Louis.
I know nothing.
I want to rewatch A Star Is Born with Judy Garland. I've seen that, like the original Star Is Born. I've seen that and I really loved it.
Is it on HBO Max? I saw it somewhere where I actually saw like the original, the remake, and then the third remake.
There's probably all of the versions like are probably on HBO Max because Warner Brothers did do that. Let's see. This episode is just us googling old movies.
Google.
Yes,
Sponsored
it is on HBO Max.
Okay. My God, the one with Bradley Cooper came out in 2018 now.
Yeah, and Lady Gaga.
Yeah.
Did you know Beyonce was supposed to be in that one?
I don't think Beyonce can respectfully humble herself enough to play a Star Is Born type of character.
Look, I'm just gonna pass over that before the Beehive.
No.
After
I'm just saying, she knows her worth. She's gone through what she's gone through. Like people say, Beyonce's internet. Like, I'm like messing with it. I'm just trying. And like, how do you like go from Beyonce's internet to like trying to be like A Star Is Born, where the actress is supposed to be like down on her luck, nothing, everything to be risen up again? Like she can't.
Well, I would have said the same about Lady Gaga, but she killed that role. But it was going to be originally directed by Clint Eastwood, and Beyonce was going to star in it, and they were still thinking of who was going to be the male lead, and I think Will Smith was attached at one point. And other people were attached to
Clint Eastwood working on a project with Beyonce. It just sounds like a Mad Lib.
But they were in discussions to star and direct.
It's a weird combination, and honestly, it sounds like a Mad Lib.
I think it didn't work out because of scheduling, but then they made the Lady Gaga and Bradley Cooper version. Anything else about Singing in the Rain?
I just really enjoyed it.
Yes. Same.
I learned. Trying to read some stuff on it. I'm just it was just a good film.
Mm-hmm.
And I just enjoyed how it was not as problematic as coming into today's world as a lot of films from that time period would be. There's not a lot of horrifying, other than, of course, Donald O'Connor being hospitalized. There's not a lot of horror stories behind it either. Like, unfortunately, with Wizard of Oz, how horribly Judy Garland was treated. And you hear about all these older movies about how, like, the women were treated, or how staff had a really bad drug problem with something. You don't hear that with Singing in the Rain. It sounds like it stayed pretty professional, too. So you don't have this moment where you're like, I really enjoyed this, and then learn something about its past and being like, why? Why can't I just enjoy the film, man? Now you got my moral compass spinning, and I don't want to deal with it. And I really just, the Good Morning song and the Moses Supposes sequence are like my favorite. Moses Supposes, I forgot how good that was and how insanely talented you have to be able to do those like limericks.
Mm-hmm.
And they did it so well. And then along with their dancing and them being so Gene Kelly and Donald O'Connor being so I know people talk a lot about like the female lead and then the male lead, how they have to be so working well together, choreographed, and how they have to have so much trust in their partner. But Gene Kelly and Donald O'Connor have to have a lot of trust in each other because they did a lot of dance sequences together, and they had a lot of scenes where they were this. He was right; they were like very on top of each other, like the scene where they were both playing the violin and they're like arms
Mm-hmm.
are linked, and I was like, and he's basically cradling Gene Kelly against his chest as he's playing the violin over him. So I was like, that's really cool, and like you do have to have a lot of faith in your partner when you're doing these dances, because you can twist your ankle, you can break your ankle, you can fall and hurt yourself so badly. I mean, dancing is such a skill that you can have very little of or you can have a lot of, but it is still a skill, an amazing ability that people have, these people had gone from professional training to non-traditional training, which they both commented on, and the fact that a lot of these people in this film didn't have the full professional. They didn't, study ballet or things like that. These are people who learned it on set or for this film. That's a pretty amazing thing to see, and having this iconic film last so long is really incredible and shows that films can still be very unique if you allow them to be, and if you allow people to show all their skills almost at once, or at least allow them to express at least more than one. Not just like drama, not just comedy. This was able to be a little bit of both. Because you also had scenes where Debbie Reynolds, she was crying. She was being dramatic, and she did so well at it. When she was hurt, because they were like, "Oh, you're gonna go sing behind the curtain," she was hurt, and you could see the hurt on her face, and she was expressive. Even though during the most of the film, she was happy and smiling and showing like, "Hey, I'm being supportive." She was able to shift so quickly and be like, "Oh yeah, I'm in pain. You heard me." And then when she's trying to run away, she turns back, and then she has the glistening tears, of course, that are perfectly
Mm-hmm.
placed.
Right. I'm like those were definitely like eye drops or like
They had an
something. Cause I'm
extra probably. They like turned the camera to Gene Kelly and they're like, okay, put it on her face real quick.
like, uh-huh.
She did that so well, and like she was able to have such a range in this film, and I think actors should be allowed to have that more nowadays. They don't get to
Mm-hmm.
have the full range like they did. I feel like back then. It's like, yeah, it makes for much better films.
Yeah. The talent.
Oh yeah, the
The
absolute talent.
talent.
I would love to see this at a drive-in too. I'm looking at one
Oh,
of the
that
old
would be
posters
fun.
and it says drive-in.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I think that would be so cool.
That would be fun. Well, what would you grade Singing in the Rain?
I'd give it an A. I still
Mm-hmm.
fell in love with all the characters, and yeah, I can't. Other than that one, sketchy bit, I can't really find too much wrong with the film, and just the songs make you want to get up and just dance with it.
Mm-hmm.
What about you?
I agree. It'll be an A from me. I love this movie. It makes me want to watch the stage show again. And it makes me want to just I want to be a part of a musical. I want to watch more of these old musicals. I want to watch more old films. Um, yeah, I love Singing in the
It's a beautiful film. Which was your
Rain.
favorite song before we leave?
Yeah. Between Make 'Em Laugh and of course Singing in the Rain, but I also loved uh the Broadway musical number. Like even though there's barely any singing in it. Except gotta dance. That's about it. But
That is a good one. I
uh
That one had a lot of color, but it wasn't overstimulating like that other scene I was talking about. They used the color. I loved how much they used yellow in this film. before we
Mm.
leave. I want to talk about that. The yellow and the green, and I'm sure in black and white it helped it make it appear more popping. But when you put in the Technicolor, it's still beautiful. It's still gorgeous. The yellows and the greens they use, because it was never like a mustard yellow or like a gross yellow. It was beautiful. It was vibrant. It was like sunflower yellow or sunshine yellow. It was gorgeous. And the greens they use, it just made everything pretty when it
Mm-hmm.
came into color. Um, I'm really partial to Good Morning and then just Moses Supposes. Because that
Mm.
was just a silly part. It was just a silly fun part. And you're there wasn't a lot of singing in that one. There was a lot more dancing. But yeah, Moses Supposes was one of my I think favorites.
Yeah.
All right. So I
Well,
guess that concludes it. We have to
yes.
just go watch more of these because I feel like
I guess we just have to
we
now.
found a bunch to already watch in this episode. So I guess we
Right,
have to do
literally.
another one.
So we'll be back with another retro review of a classic film. And I think it would be cool to do films that not necessarily a lot of people know about too, not just like the classic ones that you know of, but maybe some of the more obscure ones too.
Oh, we should do Pillow Talk. I forget the actor in it, but it's about the time. It's around the time period where people actually had to share landlines. I
Mm.
don't think a lot of people when landlines were still building up, and you actually shared a phone number with somebody else, and you were like, "All right, I use the phone from this time to this time, and you use it from this time to this time." It's really
Oh,
cool.
nice.
I'll put more description later, but
Okay.
yeah, there's like movies
Cool.
like that where they're just not as popular, but they're still so good.
Right, right. Because I have maybe I've heard of it, but I've definitely never seen that movie. So yeah. Well, Alex, socials. Where can people find you?
You can find me at Alex and Nobody on Instagram and on TikTok. TikTok, the first ones to die, is where I will post little clips of the episodes aired, what we may be reviewing next, what I have been watching. You can hear me laugh like an idiot. And my last one over a Phineas and Ferb scene. I really lost it. It was so funny. I don't know what my problem was in that moment, but just join me for a good laugh here and there.
Our retro review got you watching Phineas and Ferb.
I just kept going with it, and then I'm like, this is stupid, but it's so much fun. Just watching old TV now. Um, and you can head over to the First Ones to Die on the YouTube channel where we post little book reviews, mini reviews, all the podcast video versions, and other things we may be doing as well. Maybe some classic reviews will pop up here and there on there as well. So come check those out. What about you, Jonathan? Where are we finding you?
Yes, you can find me at Jonathan Keys on Twitter, Instagram, wherever you please. You can follow us at The First Ones to Die on all of these social media platforms. You can email us, thefirstones2die@gmail.com. We'd love to get your feedback and comments. And if you're watching us on YouTube, hey, and go ahead and give us a thumbs up and subscribe and give us a comment as well if you're feeling it. And if you're listening to us on your favorite podcast listener, go ahead and give us 5 stars and a review. We would really appreciate it. Next week,
I have no idea.
I don't have it pulled up
I
either. But
you're why would you do that?
you pointed like you
Because
you knew.
you always have it up. You always say you're like, next week we're doing this. You have your little bit. Next week we are doing Renfield. Ooh, I'm
That's
actually
right.
excited to do it. Came out just last Friday. It is about Dracula's servant Renfield. Nicholas Cage just plays Dracula, and I forget the main actor who's supposed to be
It's
playing Renfield.
Nicholas something. His name is
another
also
Nicholas.
yeah. Nicholas.
He was in
Holt?
Skins. I remember that British version of Skins.
Is it Nicholas Holt?
Yeah. It's a modern point of view through him where he actually like goes to support groups because Dracula's very demanding, which is fair. Fair on Renfield's part, not fair on Dracula's part. I mean,
Okay.
you sleep most of your day. Like let the guy have a break. It's okay if he goes and watches classic movies too. Let him do that. It's his time. But join us for that, and Jerome will be back too.
Yes. All right. We will see you all next week. Have a good week.
Bye.
Bye.